Greetings, Space Marines. FiOth here, and today the Emperor indeed provided. We were blessed with a new secondary weapon, the Neo-Volkite Pistol, a heat-based energy weapon that does certain things that seem very interesting on paper, missing the mark on other aspects. Let's talk about it. First and foremost, the Neo-Volkite is a continuous heat-based energy beam that cumulatively builds up damage and at some point, reaching a threshold, explodes to deal a big chunk of damage to the enemy you were aiming at and AoE damage around the primary target. That sounds great on paper, as I said before, because you're thinking, well, I will be attacking an enemy, tagging them for a small amount of time, and then the explosion will probably damage them substantially and clear the chaff around. The problem with this weapon is that you really have to keep your sights on the target for an extended amount of time. The damage that you build up relies on a number of factors. First and foremost, the build you will be running on the gun, meaning the perk tree you will be using, will determine the damage of the weapon overall. But because the hit accumulates no matter who's adding to the pile, your allies can pitch in and really build it up fast to cause an explosion and of course the added damage. This brings forward the question, is it a good idea for everyone to be using this in order to build damage as fast as possible? Well, it can only be used by the Vanguard, the Bulwark and the Assault. No other class can use it. So if you really want to optimize the damage output and the little explosions, you have to restrict yourself to these three classes. I don't know if the developers intentionally included this restriction to the gun, but three classes using a weapon that is very reliant on the added effort of your brothers to be effective strikes me as an odd choice. The damage itself is okay-ish. It will never reach the heights of the heavy bolt pistol, but it is a continuous stream. That means that if you can keep your eyes on the enemy and keep applying pressure, eventually you will reach the explosive threshold and you will deal good damage. What does it mean? Apply pressure in order to reach a threshold. What about enemies that are very fleeting or enemies that are just kind of background, like when you're defending the Cadians in Decapitation or the initial swarm in Inferno? Well, you cannot do anything to those swarms, at least nothing that is substantial. Those little enemies that come to you in swarms before they start climbing walls are pretty much just tooltips, just placeholders. They're not actual enemies, they die in one hit. You will be able to hit them, of course, but you will not be able to build any hit in order to cause any substantial damage. That means that you are not stopping them effectively, so you will not be contributed to your team when it comes to stopping them from climbing the walls. It is a very odd situation. General observations aside, what I noticed is that the effectiveness of the weapon and the overall application of its bonus damage relies on how you're actually aiming at the enemy, and that means that headshots will build up more heat faster than body shots. Precise application of the beam on gaunts or beastmen will take them out of commission really fast. Now, the damage that it deals, at least when it comes from a single source, means that fighting the chunkier enemies, like the Chaos Marines for example, will be a tough proposition. And my main issue with this is that if the classes that are able to use this are melee focused, you are restricted to a firearm that does so damage and remains your only ranged option. This leads to the consideration of what you are going to do when you really have to go against enemies that are flyers, have a shitload of health, and you don't have any other means of fighting them, like the Neurothropes or the Zoanthropes, for example. Well, it is a very tough situation. I tried this gun unupgraded on Ruthless, then when it was mastercrafted, again on Ruthless, and when it became Artificer, I started doing Lethal. I wasn't really feeling the damage output. It is great at decimating the Chaos Rifleman, as you see here on this clip, and at dealing with, let's say, mines or the small cluster of chaff. But when you really have to dish out the damage, It is kind of problematic to keep the enemy in check. You need to keep firing for extended amounts of time, they have a lot of health, and you have to make a strategic choice between keep firing or going in for the melee. If your enemies are grounded units and they have no air support, that is a manageable proposition. The alternative of fighting both air units and grounded units, not so much. Space Marine has a very specific ebb and flow to it. You have to be close enough to perform finishes, but not as close as to get overwhelmed and be forced into trying to get parry after parry. This thing forces you to focus, forces you to ADS and keep your sights on the enemy in order to optimize damage output. You lose situational awareness, but don't deal enough fast enough in order to take your eyes off of the occasional enemy and just go back into the melee to get the overall picture of the battlefield. Restrictive and demands too much for not as much as you would have hoped. Now, I don't want to be all doom and gloom about it, because it certainly can do things other than just erasing mines. If you sacrifice one user of the gun to bring a tactical into the team, every single mini boss enemy will be erased by the continuous stream of the remaining two players if Auspex is applied. We are talking insane amounts of damage on focused fire. The stream itself will do damage, the explosions will do damage, and things like carnifexes or neurothropes will just get erased. Granted, you are not getting attacked from the back whilst you're ADSing to dish out the damage and keep the beam on point. An excellent way to utilize it, but again, it begs the question. The tactical you will be bringing already has an understrung grenade launcher on a very effective gun, that is, the bolt rifle. He will probably outdamage your combined effort just by spamming those little grenades on the target. Why would this be the ideal choice if you can bring anything else that can get the job done easier without tunnel visioning you? Gun strikes, a very important aspect of every secondary weapon, work really well. It also creates a small area of effect around the prime target that will also get damaged and get some heat applied to them. Last but not least, when it comes to perk, my suggestion is go top row. That is because you get plus 10% damage at the beginning and a better overall explosion at the end. There is a very nice perk at the bottom row about the mid side where you get faster build up, but the way they've made the skill trees, the shady way they've made the skill trees, you cannot sacrifice a single point if you wanna reach the end of the row. So go top row from left to right and enjoy the boom. Overall, I wasn't blown away by the gun's performance, but I wouldn't say that it is bad. It is a mixed bag at the moment, and I am pretty sure they're gonna balance it out and make it a bit better, as they should, because I see this staying in the vault alongside the carbine, which by the way got a pretty substantial buff with the latest patch. Thank you for watching, guys. I'm covering everything Space Marine 2. Subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell. Join us on the streams. Until next time, be well, stay frosty, and always strive for perfection. Cheers!